Welcome to the tutorial on using Revit View Templates to optimize your export to LightStanza. The Revit plugin enables you to leverage Revit View Templates to reduce model complexity and focus on the geometry that matters most for lighting simulations. In this tutorial, we'll look at how to apply and modify view templates in Revit for the most efficient export to LightStanza. LightStanza exports Revit geometry based on 3D view visibility. So you'll start by setting up a 3D view that shows the portion of the building that you're most interested in, and the export will include all the elements that are visible in that view. This can present a bit of a workflow hurdle because 3D views in Revit by default contain a very high level of geometric detail. You can see if I zoom in to this default view, I have landscaping elements, there's some air handlers on the roof, there's a dumpster out in the parking lot. Things that are part of the project, but that may not necessarily need to be considered for lighting design. And then opening the visibility graphics settings, you can kind of get an idea of what's all involved. So by default, all the categories will be turned on, everything from air terminals all the way down to fire sprinklers, even things as small as individual wires can be modeled in the Revit project. And because these have very small surface areas, they'll not be critical for the inner reflected light calculation. But fortunately, you don't need to go through this list and remove each category that you don't need to consider individually. There are some built-in view templates to help automate the process. To access the view templates, first we'll close out of the main visibility graphics settings, and then you can find view templates under the view parameters underneath identity data. So right now there's no template applied, and then this will bring you into the view templates dialog. And exporting to LightStanza requires a view template. If the selected view has the None template applied, then the LightStanza minimal export, which is included in the plugin, will be automatically applied during the export process. This ensures only the most essential geometry is included for faster simulations and performance. To review which categories are included, select the Edit button next to VG Overrides Model. Notice this automatically deselected a lot of the higher level of detail categories, but it did include larger surfaces, things like casework, ceilings, as well as columns, which might be relevant for shadowing, as well as the curtain wall categories for daylight simulations, doors to make sure no light leaks out through the voids, floors so that you have a reflecting surface off the bottom, of course lighting fixtures, and then a few other miscellaneous categories that add a little extra accuracy to the design. In addition to the minimal export template, the plugin also includes the default export template, which includes a higher level of detail. The default export template includes everything in the minimal template, but also some additional categories, things like ductwork, which can also be critical for shadowing ceiling fixtures, as well as furniture, which can add additional realism to renderings, and different specialty equipment categories that may be necessary if you need to consider a large piece of equipment in the building that may be blocking the calculation meters. You can include those by enabling those categories in the template. You can also create custom view templates, as well as copy the existing view templates to use as a starting point. For example, say I want to essentially use the minimal template, but make a couple of adjustments to the categories. I can duplicate it, give it a unique name, and then go back into the edit settings and say you want to include everything in the minimal export as well as generic model families, for example. You can enable that here and then use the custom view template instead of one of the built-in ones. And finally, if you're working with linked models, you'll want to make sure to enable this option VG Overrides Revit Links, and then select Include so that the settings in the applied view template also propagate to the linked architectural model. And once you have a view template you're happy with, you can just click OK and review the updates in the 3D view. Notice many of the landscaping categories went away and the extra detail. Now this is a more stripped down version of the model that'll perform faster for lighting analysis. Now with the 3D view set, we can export. So under the LightStanza tab, you can select Export, Export to LS, and just be sure to select the appropriate 3D view and the view template you plan to use, whether it's the custom one or one of the LightStanza ones. Then click Export. With the model imported into LightStanza, you can review which Revit categories were included under the Layers table. This list will include everything that was selected in the view template that was applied. You can also make adjustments after the import. Say you want to hide an entire layer, you can hide it visibly in the 3D viewer temporarily, or you can toggle it off completely to exclude from simulations, or you can delete the layer to remove all elements in that category from the calculation. This can be helpful if you had an overly detailed view template initially that you want to clean up after you've imported into LightStanza. But be careful, because once you delete a layer, it's gone and you would have to re-import to get that geometry back. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and please reach out if you have any questions about view templates in LightStanza. You can contact us at support@lightstanza.com.